Hi, good morning. I'm Vicki Wynn.
And I'm Joe Fryer. Right now on Morning News Now, vaccine deadline. Amid the confusing nationwide booster shot rollout, controversy in New York City this morning as a federal judge temporarily blocks a vaccine mandate for teachers and other workers in the nation's largest school system. Now officials are concerned about a possible teacher shortage if that decision is reversed. President of one of the nation's largest teachers unions joins us shortly. We'll get her take. Cargo chaos, an issue at major container ports on both coasts, could impact your next trip to the grocery store. The supply shortage is already happening, and the impact this bottleneck could have on holiday shopping. Tragedy on the tracks. 3 people are dead, dozens more injured after an Amtrak train derailed in northern Montana over the weekend with roughly 160 people on board. And this morning, the cause of the accident still remains a mystery. Federal investigators now looking into what went wrong, the latest on their probe. And of course, Broadway's back. Well, yeah, we already knew that, but the Tonys have returned from a pandemic pause with all its trademark glitz and excitement lighting up the Winter Garden Theater last night. We'll bring you the big winners, the heartbreaking snubs, and all the other key takeaways from the Great White Way's biggest night.
Looking forward to that. Did you have a favorite show from last year? I know you're big on
I had not. I'd only seen one of the musical nominees because they had shut down too quickly, so I didn't get to see them all yet, but it's exciting to have them back, even if there weren't as many nominees.
Yes, and that's always a great show to watch.
Exactly. So we'll get to that in a little bit. First of all, though, after weeks of turmoil, states today are scrambling to roll out doses of Pfizer's COVID vaccine booster shot, but some states are already reporting confusion around who qualifies for the booster.
Yeah, a lot of confusion. So far, people over the age of 65 and patients who are at high risk for contracting the virus are eligible for the shot, but only if they've received the Pfizer vaccine. NBC News correspondent Gabe Gutierrez is in Kentucky this morning with more on how states are responding to the new policy.
Joe and Vicki, good morning. This hospital has set up a tent outside in the parking lot to administer monoclonal antibody treatments because there's just no room inside. Even as new COVID cases drop in many parts of the country, now another hurdle, a complicated booster shot rollout.
This morning, for millions of Americans, the rush is on to get a COVID booster shot. But in cities like San Antonio, a rough rollout.
We were here about 3 hours, but it was well worth it.
We didn't expect the response that we're seeing today.
Last week, a CDC advisory panel approved the third Pfizer shots for people 65 and older and some with underlying medical conditions. But in a rare move, the CDC director, Rochelle Walensky, went even further, opening up boosters to frontline workers.
It's really for people who are working all the time with many different people who might be unvaccinated.
Some states are now cautious. In Vermont, a very limited rollout, pending more clarity from the CDC.
Those 80 and above can register to get their booster shot.
Another challenge, making sure that Moderna and Johnson & Johnson vaccine recipients know that they're not yet eligible for boosters.
It does appear that while it may be safe, not clear that you get added benefit from mixing and matching.
Other places are also struggling with COVID vaccine mandates. A federal judge is temporarily blocking one for New York City teachers that was set to take effect today. Parents are divided.
Should be mandated, yes.
I feel like if the teachers don't want the vaccines, that's okay, as long as they're safe about it, put the mask on.
A similar requirement starts today for New York healthcare workers, prompting concerns over staffing shortages. The governor is preparing to call in the National Guard if they don't show up for work. Around the country, new COVID cases are down, but in many places with lower vaccination rates, hospitalizations are still high. There's also a shortage of monoclonal antibody treatments, leading the federal government to limit the supply.
On a national level, it's been devastating. People that we would normally be able to treat, if this was last week or last month, we're having to tell them no. No physician and no healthcare provider wants to have to do this.
Here in Kentucky, St. Clair Regional Medical Center has dozens of COVID patients right now. 11 of them are on ventilators. And some of the medical staff is even making house calls to try and prevent those who are sick from ending up here at the ICU. Joe and Vicki.
All right, Gabe Gutierrez on the front lines again for us. Thank you so much.
All right, let's bring in a familiar face, NBC News medical contributor, Dr. Kavita Patel. So, Dr. Patel, if you're older or have an underlying condition and got the Pfizer vaccine, well, then you can get the booster. But what if you got Moderna or J&J? Should they be worried about levels of protection right now?
Yeah, so simply put, you'll have to sit and wait. I don't think that people who receive Moderna and J&J are at risk of running out of their immunity, Joe. The evidence presented even to the FDA and CDC speaks to how the immunity is incredibly stable months later. It's just that we know that if you don't get a booster down the road, you would still be at much higher risk, and it can be prevented again with a simple shot. Now, having said that, I think if people have to wait longer than 2 to 4 weeks, I think you're going to see just an incredible amount of pressure on the administration and the scientists to do something. And I wouldn't argue with them, because we are all waiting to make sure that Moderna and J&J are not left behind.
And in the meantime, you can layer some of the protection. If you have the vaccine, keep your distance, wear a mask when you're indoors, right, Dr. Kavita? I want to ask you one real quick question, too,
Vicki,
on top of that.
Yeah.
Sorry, this delay is killing us.
Absolutely.
We may be closer to a vaccine for the younger kids, but Pfizer CEO says the company plans to submit vaccine data on kids 5 to 11 within days. So talk about how much that would be a game changer for getting younger kids vaccinated, especially now as we head into winter and we could be dealing with a tough flu season.
Yeah, huge game changer. Turnaround time could be 3 to 4 weeks after that emergency application is filed, and then authorization and rollout right in time for Thanksgiving, Christmas, and the holidays over the year. I do think that the big question, Vicki, is where will we be? We didn't anticipate the Delta variant. We don't see any other variants emerging yet. But I think the big game changer could be if we relax a lot and travel ticks up and we have more threats, then we will see a plateau, potentially an uptick over the winter holiday. But kids getting vaccinated will help add millions to the vaccination rate.
Dr. Patel, I want to jump off that where will we be question. Several health experts told NBC News they expect cases to continue to decline, but the Delta variant caught them by surprise. One of them said, quote, "Who knows what other variants are going to come around, or if we're going to have some surge for other reasons that we're not really anticipating at this point." Do you think it's likely we'll have a surge similar to the Delta variant again, especially with more than half of all Americans fully vaccinated?
Yeah, there's two camps in this. One camp believes that this virus, the Delta variant, because it actually wasn't it's infectious, but it wasn't killing people at a higher rate. Some people believe that the virus has kind of burned itself out and that this might be the most infectious we've seen, and that any viruses after that are just going to be weaker, which is good news for us. Another camp is kind of alluding to the fact that we could see escape of our immunity, which is incredibly strong with our 3 vaccines. And that would be in the form of a variant that escapes basically all of the world's immunity and causes us to go into repeat. I'm hoping for the former scenario, and that will dictate kind of what the next 3 to 6 months look like.
Yeah, we are all on Team Camp 1. All right, Dr. Kavita Patel, as always, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Turning now to Capitol Hill and what is expected to be a pivotal week for President Biden's agenda. Congress is planning to vote on 2 massive bills containing almost every Democratic priority. Lawmakers also need to fund the government and avert a shutdown this week while raising the debt ceiling so the country doesn't default on its loans next month. Here's NBC News senior Capitol Hill correspondent Garrett Hake.
Hey, Joe and Vicki, good morning. Democrats see this as a make-or-break week for the president's agenda, with those 2 huge votes expected and a possible government shutdown looming.
President Biden projecting confidence on Sunday with the fate of his domestic agenda hanging in the balance.
I'm optimistic about this week. It's going to take the better part of the week, I think.
Congress planning votes this week on a $1 trillion bipartisan infrastructure bill, a separate $3.5 trillion bill that would expand health care, education, and tackle the climate crisis, and a bill to raise the country's borrowing limit and fund the government, which will otherwise shut down at midnight Thursday.
We have to make sure we keep government open, and we will.
With that shutdown clock ticking, a showdown within the Democratic Party is also looming. Mr. Biden is still struggling to unite the party behind the centerpiece of his agenda, that larger bill spending $3.5 trillion on a sweeping progressive social agenda. That bill has no Republican support, and some moderate Democrats worry it spends too much money on liberal political goals. Now, progressives are demanding a commitment to move that agenda forward via a procedural process known as reconciliation. If they don't get it, they will oppose a vote Nancy Pelosi plans to hold today on the smaller infrastructure bill.
We're not leaving one part of the agenda behind and giving up on the idea of childcare, paid leave, community college, health care.
But some moderate Democrats, like West Virginia's Joe Manchin, haven't signed off yet.
I think a good reconciliation bill could be done whenever, but it's going to take a lot more time.
Leading to a legislative standoff that Democratic leaders now must find some way to break.
The other big piece of this puzzle, the debt ceiling. Democrats had hoped to raise it with that vote tonight that also funds the government. Republicans say they'll block both because they don't want to enable what they call a Democratic spending spree. The reality is more complicated. A lot of the debt we're talking about was passed by Republicans under a Republican president. There's still no real plan after this vote fails, but Joe and Vicky, there's at least a little bit of time to still figure one out since the debt ceiling won't expire until the middle of October.
All right, Garrett, we know you'll be watching closely. Thank you so much.
Now to the search for answers into a deadly train derailment outside of Joplin, Montana. The Amtrak passenger train traveling from Chicago to the Pacific Northwest came off the tracks more than halfway through the cross-country trip, killing 3 people and injuring several others. NBC News national correspondent Miguel Almaguer is on the scene with the very latest. Miguel, good morning.
Joe, good morning. The NTSB is on scene now with heavy machinery trying to upright the train and also sort through the wreckage, looking for any potential clues. We know at least 3 people are dead. More than 40 have been injured as investigators try to piece together what went wrong.
Oh my God, it's on its side.
The chaotic scene unfolding along a rural stretch of northern Montana.
This hasn't ever happened.
An Amtrak passenger train derailing just outside of Joplin Saturday with roughly 160 people on board, including 16 crew members.
Oh, the train's destroyed down there, right?
The train was over halfway through its 2-day journey from Chicago to Seattle and Portland when around 4 p.m., 8 of the train's 10 cars came off the tracks.
I'm a pretty big guy, and I was picked up and thrown from my chair straight into the wall.
With 4 cars turned completely on their side, emergency responders had to pull multiple people out of the wreckage.
They did had to cut into one of the cars to extract some of the individuals.
Many locals in the area quickly rushing in to the crash site to help.
I didn't really know what to do. I just heard the screaming for help and ran to that location.
Authorities say 3 people were killed in the accident and 5 others were in the hospital Sunday in stable condition. Now with the NTSB launching a GO team, investigators are carefully clearing the debris, looking for any signs of what caused the deadly crash.
It strikes me that it's going to be something to do with the train cars themselves and how they connected with the track, or in some fault or flaw in the track.
BNSF, the company that maintains the railroad, says this section of track was inspected just 2 days before the accident and that positive train control, or PTC, was installed, a safety measure that prevents collisions and derailments by automatically adjusting a train's speed and even braking. Amtrak says it's deeply saddened by the fatal incident and is fully cooperating with investigators. Meantime, those who survived still shaken by the tragedy on the tracks.
Authorities are still looking for the train's event recorder. That'll tell them exactly how fast the train was traveling and if the brakes were applied before the derailment. Guys, back to you.
All right, Miguel, thank you. Let's get a check on your morning news now weather.
Hey, Bill Cairns, good morning to you.
Hey, good morning. We don't have too much bad weather to talk about, and what bad weather we have may actually be beneficial. So we have 2 areas of rain. One is heading through areas of the Northeast. No problems there. It's been kind of dry lately. It's not going to cause any issues at all. And the other area of rain, we go all the way back to the Pacific Northwest. And with this cold front moving onshore, we got some significant rain. And this is going to be a damp, and we want to call it dreary weather pattern as we go throughout this upcoming week. So I know we don't want a dreary, cloudy week and kind of chilly temperatures, but this will really help all the firefighting efforts. And it's been so dry, and even in the Northwest, that we'll take whatever rain we can get. And we'll also see some gusty winds too, which aren't the best for firefighting efforts, but it's possible. And you'll notice that even the high elevations, there are some blue showing up on that map, and that's even at some snow at the highest of elevation. So we'll be a little cool and chilly. Dramatic temperature drops. A lot of areas going from the 80s back into the 50s and the 60s. And as far as rainfall totals go, the highest totals, as you'd expect, that yellow stripe that that goes just to the west, to the east of Seattle and Portland. That's the Cascade Mountains. Also the Olympics there towards the northern coast there of Washington State. That's also going to get possibly 1 to 2 inches. So here's your week ahead forecast. Unseasonably warm, near record highs today in areas like St. Louis and Chicago. Air conditioners still blasting, still feels like the middle of summer. It's not quite as humid as it is in the middle of the summer, but it's still very hot. And we're warm all the way in the southeast and the mid-Atlantic, too. And as we head towards the middle of this week, the East Coast looks pretty ideal. There's almost a zero chance of rain on much of the eastern seaboard this week. Scattered storms in the middle of the country. And then we end this work week, we'll just call it spectacular, from the Great Lakes to the New England area. Beautiful weather. It'll stay soggy, though. Wet weather pattern in Texas, guys. So a pretty tranquil. You notice I didn't say anything about severe weather. I didn't say anything about hurricanes. I didn't say anything about snowstorms yet. This is kind of that nice little period where we're kind of in between a lot of those.
All right. We like to hear that.
We'd love to see that spectacular on your map, Bill. We know we're in for a treat then. Thank you.
Coming up, a counterfeit crisis in America. Fake prescription pills designed to look exactly like the ones in your medicine cabinet containing deadly fentanyl.
The DEA now putting out a dire warning to the public, the administration's top official, on this latest threat. That's next.
Now to the latest in the Gabby Potito investigation. A nationwide manhunt for her fiancé, Brian Laundrie, is stretching into its second week with more than $30,000 raised in reward money for information leading to his capture. Comes as Potito's friends and family gathered Sunday to say goodbye. NBC News correspondent Kathy Park joins us now from Holbrook, New York, with the very latest. Kathy, good morning.
Hey, Joe, good morning to you. Yeah, we were here at that service yesterday, and it was certainly a powerful display of solidarity. We are told that approximately 1,200 people stopped by this funeral home yesterday, locals to strangers, some even traveling as far away as California, all to pay their respects to Gabby, a young woman who loved life.
A massive outpouring of support for Gabby Potito. Family, friends, and total strangers coming together to remember a young life cut tragically short. Lines of mourners saying goodbye Sunday to the 22-year-old in a public memorial service near her hometown.
Her smile and her story touched so many people.
The funeral home sharing this video tribute of Gabby. Her father asking guests to be inspired by her life while hinting at a relationship with her now missing fiancé, Brian Laundrie.
If there's a trip that you guys want to take it now. Do it now while you got the time. If there's a relationship that you're in that might not be the best thing for you, leave it now.
Gabby capturing the nation's attention when she mysteriously disappeared in late August during a cross-country trip with Laundrie. He returned home to Florida alone September 1st. Gabby's body was later found in a remote camping area in Wyoming. Laundrie's parents told police their son went for a hike September 14th at the 25,000-acre Carlton Reserve near their Florida home. Their attorney adding that he left without his wallet or phone. The FBI has now issued a warrant for Laundrie's arrest for debit card fraud that they say happened after Gabby's death. On Sunday, federal investigators returned to his family's home to retrieve personal items that will help with DNA matching. Despite a massive surge by federal, state, and local officials, Laundrie has not been seen in nearly 2 weeks.
We have air units, we have drones, we have the swamp buggies, air boats.
Dwayne Chapman, known as Dog the Bounty Hunter, showed up at Laundrie's parents' home this weekend, as seen in this DailyMail.com footage, telling the media outlet, "I will find him." An intensifying manhunt for Laundrie, as calls for justice grow louder.
And there's still so many questions surrounding this case. Officials have not yet released details on how Gabby died. And while her fiancé is still a person of interest, he has not been charged in her death. Joe?
All right, Kathy, thank you so much.
We turn now to an NBC News exclusive for our series, One Nation Overdosed, the first television interview with the new head of the Drug Enforcement Administration. This morning, Ann Milgram is announcing a rare public safety alert. It comes in response to an alarming number of counterfeit pills containing fentanyl that are now flooding the country. We're joined now with Kate Snow, who's here in studio. Thank you. And, you know, she sat down with you and had a really candid conversation.
Yeah, very candid. And here's the thing. The DEA has not issued what they call a public safety alert for years, not since 2015. And when that came out, it was because they were worried about fentanyl in powdered heroin. Well, now the concern is pills that contain fentanyl, marketed as prescription drugs, being sold online. And they're not that at all. They're being sold through social media as well. They're actually fake, often containing powerful, deadly fentanyl, sometimes methamphetamine. The DEA Administrator Ann Milgram is launching this campaign, One Pill Can Kill. She says social media companies could be doing a lot more.
A staggering increase in...
On the job less than 3 months, DEA Administrator Ann Milgram is shocked that already this year they've seized 9.5 million fake pills, mainly containing deadly fentanyl, sometimes methamphetamine.
That's more than we've seized in the last 2 years combined, and the percentage of those pills that are deadly, potentially deadly, has never been higher.
4 out of 10 counterfeit pills that contain fentanyl are deadly. 4 out of 10.
Yes, they have 2 milligrams of fentanyl or more.
That's minuscule, the size of the tip of a pencil.
It's like Russian roulette, then.
It's Russian roulette, but it's even more dangerous in one sense. In Russian roulette, people know that they're passing around a loaded gun. Here, you are talking about many people who think that they're actually buying oxycodone, or they're buying Percocet, or they're buying Vicodin, a painkiller. They think they're buying a prescription drug bought in an illegal market, and they're not. They're buying fentanyl or methamphetamine. And the fentanyl pills can kill people. The only pill that is safe to take is the one that is prescribed by your doctor.
Administrator Milgram showed me how fake pills look just like legitimate prescription drugs.
The cartels are intentionally making these pills look exactly like the real thing.
Without question.
If a dealer is on Snapchat or TikTok, somewhere public, advertising, how can you not just go get that person and stop them from selling?
We do that every day. This is a $500 billion business.
Is part of the problem, though, that there's so much coming in?
We regularly seize and interdict vast quantities of chemicals coming that are being shipped from China to Mexico, and then they're being mass produced in Mexico. These are predatory criminal organizations that will do anything they can to make money. They have no regard for American lives.
I mean, in a split second, he was gone.
Julie Hoffman's son Wyatt died after taking a fake pill last year.
I just said, I'm never going to see him again, am I? And he just looked at me and he just went.
The drug dealer is not sitting down the street from you. It is sitting in your home. It is sitting on the phone of your child. Anyone can have access.
Should social media companies be doing more to help you?
Yes. There is no question in my mind that social media companies are not doing enough to stop this problem. Social media companies know that their platforms are being used for this, and they need to understand that Americans are dying. They're dying at record rates, and they need to be a partner in stopping it.
Why do you think they need to do more?
Because it's happening every single day. And we also know that all these companies track every single piece of data related to who's on, what they're doing, who's connecting privately, what's happening.
Do you think they're erring too much on the side of user privacy?
They talk a lot about user privacy. I would say that we are in a national crisis. This is an emergency.
I asked Administrator Milgram whether the DEA, as a government agency, has the technical expertise it needs to combat all of this. She said they could always use more. She's also very big on data and analytics, guys, and she said the data, when she came in, she felt was, quote, not where I want it to be.
Interesting. She seems really dialed in on social media companies and what they know and what they don't know and what they're willing to share.
Yeah.
Hey, you also asked her about marijuana legalization in all 50 states. What did she say?
Exactly, and I asked her, does she think that it should be legal under federal law? Because, of course, it's not right now. She didn't directly answer that question or give her opinion, shockingly, but she did say that their mission at DEA is to go after the most dangerous drugs that harm communities, and right now that is fentanyl number 1, methamphetamine number 2, and that's where they're directing their resources.
Really shocking to see how similar those counterfeit pills look to the real ones.
Yeah, even the color.
Yeah. All right, Kate, thank you so much. Good to see you.
Yep.
All right, we're going to take a look now at what is making news around the world this morning.
Molly Hunter is back with us from London. Molly, good morning.
Hey,
Hey guys, good morning again. We are going to start this hour in Greece on the big island of Crete, where there's been an earthquake this morning. At least one person has been killed after a magnitude 5.8 quake struck Monday morning. Early reports are in, though, suggesting there has been a lot of structural damage. We will keep you posted on this one throughout the day. Moving to India, a cyclone made landfall on India's east coast last night as tens of thousands of people were forced into shelters. Now, this morning, India's meteorological department says it has weakened into a deep depression as it moves inward, bringing with it heavy winds and rain. And finally, as you heard from our colleague Matt Bradley reporting last hour, as expected, Germans went to the polls, but no word yet on a new chancellor. After 16 years, Angela Merkel stepped down. Her replacement will not be from her party, but from the center-left Social Democrats. But guys, she stays in power until a coalition is formed. That could be as late as Christmas. Send it back to you.
Okay, Molly, thank you so much. Now to some welcome news for new mothers and their babies. Researchers have found that breast milk from mothers who've been previously infected with COVID-19 can pass along those neutralizing antibodies to their newborns. That provides an added layer of protection for infants at the earliest stages of their lives. The study suggests antibodies remain in breast milk for up to 10 months, and they could also be used to treat people who have severe cases of COVID. And Joe, I can just say, they always say breast is best, right? And the research shows it really helps with immunity. This is interesting regarding COVID-19. But for new moms and moms-to-be, it's not always easy. So give yourself some time, get some coaching. But this is really promising news.
Yeah, all good news all around there. Yeah. All right, thank you, Vicki. Now to a story we first told you about at the top of the hour. A federal judge has temporarily blocked the country's largest school district, New York City, from enforcing a COVID vaccine mandate on its teachers and staff. In a letter to district staff, New York City's school chancellor said we should continue to prepare for the possibility that the vaccine mandate will go into effect later in the week. It allows for some time for teachers and staff to get the first dose that they were initially required to get by today. If they don't, they are at risk of being suspended without pay. Right now, at least 90% of teachers and 95% of principals are vaccinated. The rate is lower for staff members in school buildings, coming in at about 82%. Randy Weingarten joins us now. She is the president of the American Federation of Teachers. Randy, good to have you with us. First and foremost, just let me know. I mean, we know this is a complicated issue. We've heard so much debate, but where are you and your union at right now when it comes to this idea of a vaccine mandate for teachers and staff?
We have said, in light of what happened, first off, we're all totally in favor of vaccines and believe that vaccines are the most effective way and universal masking in schools to actually beat COVID right now and to long-term beat COVID. But what we said in August in light of what happened with Delta was that we should be working with, not opposing, our employers on vaccine requirements. And that's where 2/3 of my membership is. And over 90% is, has gotten the vaccine. I think it's up to 93% nationally. And that's where 2/3 of them are very, very strongly. But you have to actually work through the religious and the medical exemptions. And what happened with Bill de Blasio in New York City is he just put a date out there 3 weeks into the school year and didn't do the planning that you have to do for that transition. So if you're going to do a vaccine mandate, you do it before school start. You do it 3 weeks into the school year, you better start planning for who has the medical exemptions, who has the religious exemptions, and also how are you going to plan for staff shortages, particularly, you saw those numbers, the shortages in the cafeterias and everything else. And that's why the UFP, the teachers union there and the principals union there basically called the alarm, raised the alarms last week at the end of the week saying we are not prepared for it.
Yeah, I want to talk more about that. I mean, what are your worries if there are city staffing shortages? Around 10,000 teachers remain unvaccinated. What would be the impact of that if, in fact, that 3-judge panel later this week says, yeah, the mandate can continue?
So, look, again, I want to separate out that it's important. Long term, we're going to have this as a vaccine requirement for educators, for kids. This is just about the transition. I want to be really clear that we know that vaccines are really important. We're down to about 6,000 educators in our units, including paraprofessionals, not 10,000. But yeah, we are concerned about the shortages, and the city, Bill de Blasio, is not giving people the information. The union reps in the schools see a lot more shortages than the mayor is reporting. We don't see the substitutes. So there's a lot of confusion about that. But then on top of that, the mayor also made all sorts of different changes about quarantining and distancing. So you had a really good school opening in New York 3 weeks ago, and now there's a lot of consternation about what the schools look like this week. And then, assuming a judge does put the vaccine mandate back into place, which frankly every other judge in America has done, who's considered it, how are you going to staff classrooms? And how are you going to make sure the medical and the religious, exemptions are really worked out?
Real quickly, what do you want to see happen this week? What do you want to see the New York City School and School Board do?
What I want to see the mayor do, remember, this is mayoral control. So the two places are having problems with, Chicago and New York, are places where there's mayoral control. Lots of other places in the nation, people are working together, and that's what we want to see. The mayor should be sitting down with principals, the principals union, the teachers union. They should be sitting down and actually working through, what does every school look like? What are the outbreak rules? What are the quarantine rules? What's the physical distancing? If kids are not wearing masks the right way, how do we do that? That's how you manage a public health crisis. And that's what he's not doing. He's not giving people the information. He's just saying, oh, don't worry, everything's going to be fine. We are schools people. We got to make sure kids are safe in school. Vaccines are part of it. But you got to actually make sure ingress into a cafeteria, egress out of a cafeteria. You got to make sure kids are safe. That's like regular stuff that we got to do in the middle of the pandemic.
All right, Randi Weingarten, thank you so much for your time this morning on this important issue. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Coming up, cargo chaos off the coast of Los Angeles.
How this shipping bottleneck could affect your holiday shopping experience. You don't want to miss that. It's coming up next.
Now to a growing crisis at major container ports on both coasts. It's causing shipping delays and supply shortages for businesses large and small.
NBC News correspondent Tom Costello joins us now from Bethesda, Maryland, for a look at what is going on and how it's going to affect everything from your family's grocery run to your holiday shopping plans. Hey, good morning, Tom. Say it ain't so.
Hey, guys, good morning. Yeah, so we are on Main Street, USA, right? And the chances are, wherever your Main Street is, you're already seeing it. Prices are moving higher. We see the entire supply chain stretched right now. Ports and trucks and warehouses, they can't keep up because they've got such a backlog in shipping. And now going into the Christmas holiday shopping season, experts say you should buy now and have some patience.
Off the coast of Los Angeles, a truly stunning sight. Nearly 60 container ships in the water, anchored all the way to the horizon. Precious goods and supplies sitting idle for days. And off the East Coast, data shows nearly 20 ships waiting to get into New York City.
When the world's manufacturers came back online, there was a surge in products that were ordered and just a finite amount of capacity of ships, of trucks, of warehouses. The infrastructure that exists can't handle the volume.
The cargo bottleneck is just the latest hiccup in an already struggling supply chain, with labor shortages in trucking and warehouses causing unprecedented delays. Big retailers like Costco and Home Depot have started contracting their own ships to bring goods to U.S. shores, with Costco recently announcing it will be putting limits on key items for consumers, like toilet paper, bottled water, and cleaning supplies. Also at risk for many retailers, popular holiday gift items like TVs, toys, and sneakers. Small business owners are also feeling the pinch, like Steve Siegel, whose furniture inventory is consistently stuck at sea.
Once the ship gets unloaded, it has to go to the distributor. And once it gets there, do they have anybody to unload the truck, the container? Probably not.
Alex Willen sells all-natural dog treat mix. Right now, everything from his silicone treat molds to the jars for his popsicle mix are getting stuck in transit.
Maybe 4 or 5 months ago would have taken 45 days to get here. now, could be 60, could be as much as 90.
With no end to the delays in sight, Alex is now ordering all of his holiday inventory as early as possible.
Certainly have patience with small businesses. Things are challenging. Everything is slowed down, and we're all doing the best we can.
Experts say consumers should make sure they're stocked up on all the essentials at home and make a plan to order holiday gifts as soon as possible.
So if you have something in mind this holiday season for a family member, a child, go ahead and secure that now. Do not wait. Chances are that it won't be available in the store after Black Friday.
Yeah, did you catch that? Chances are the item you want won't be in the store after Black Friday. So buy now, and already prices are moving up. Guys, we're seeing prices up 20 to 25% already in some cases. And if you need an artificial Christmas tree, you better buy soon because they're running out. They may not be around in just a matter of weeks. Guys, back to you.
Wow, we've been talking about that. Got to get our tree. All right.
Good tips. Thanks, Tom.
Time now for our CNBC Money Minute, the biggest financial headlines of the day and why they matter to you.
Silvana Hanau joins us now. Hey, good morning, Silvana.
Good morning. Elon Musk is reaffirming Tesla's commitment to China. Speaking at a conference this weekend, Musk says the automaker will continue to expand investments in the country. It's the second time this month Musk has been complimentary of China, which is crucial to Tesla's future. The company has been trying to improve its reputation in China following negative press and a series of recalls. Tesla drivers can now request a test of the company's full self-driving technology. It started rolling out a request button that lets you try the semi-autonomous features ahead of a wider release. Elon Musk has noted Tesla will assess driving behavior, such as hard braking, aggressive turns, and tailgating. This is in an effort to reduce the chance of accidents. Critics accuse Tesla of irresponsible marketing of the technology. And the average price of gas inching up by a penny over the past 2 weeks to $3.25 a gallon. That's $1 more than a year ago. Analysts say the small increase was due to a rise in the cost of crude oil. The highest average price for regular unleaded is in San Francisco Bay Area at $4.47 a gallon, and the lowest in Houston at $2.72 a gallon. Back to you.
All right, Silvana, thank you so much. New this morning, Facebook is responding to leaked data that shows Instagram is toxic for the mental health of teenage girls. According to the internal report published nearly 2 weeks ago by the Wall Street Journal, the social media platform made body image issues even worse for 1 in 3 girls. Facebook says any suggestion that the company is hiding research is, quote, simply not accurate.
But the Wall Street Journal is standing by its reporting, saying, quote, none of the company's defenses have cited a single factual error. And in keeping with our standards, we gave Facebook ample time and space to comment before publication. Top Facebook executives are expected to testify about the report in front of Congress later this week. The head of Instagram, Adam Mosseri, joined the Today Show to shine more light on this report. Take a listen.
We do this research to shed light on problems. That's the whole point of the research, is why I'm actually proud that we do that kind of work. That work has inspired lots of interesting product changes. For instance, we announced a couple years ago we wanted to lead on the issue of online bullying. Yeah. And the research we did when we asked kids and teens why they didn't block people who were harassing them on Instagram was that they were worried about fear of retribution because they have to see these kids in school, and also they needed to track what was being said about them. So that inspired the restrict feature, which we launched a few years ago. So over the years, we're constantly doing this research, both internally and externally, and using it to inspire changes to the product. I do want to be very clear that if anybody leaves using Instagram feeling worse about themselves, that's an important issue that we need to take seriously and that we need to figure out how to address. And so we have a number of ideas in the world of body image and negative social comparison. Last week, we announced that we were working on nudges, the idea that if you're going very deep in one topic, we might nudge you to try another topic. And another project that we call Take a Break, the idea being that you could put your Instagram on pause for a period of time if you're in a moment of vulnerability. Maybe you're going through a breakup or you just switched high schools. I still firmly believe that it's a good thing to build a version of Instagram that's designed to be safe for tweens. But we want to take the time to talk to parents and researchers and safety experts and get to more consensus about how to move forward.
So Instagram for kids is scrapped for the time being. Is that because we now think it was a bad idea?
Absolutely not. Okay. I firmly believe it's a good idea. As a father, the most important thing to me is the safety of my children. And I have to believe that a world where there's a version of Instagram that's designed for tweens, one where there's no ads, where there's age-appropriate content, and one where a parent can choose to let their child use it and control things like who they follow and who they message, is better than the alternative.
I'm all for it. I think it's really important. I'm glad they're exploring that. They've put Instagram for Kids on hold. That's very interesting.
Yeah, it's a big development, and we'll see what happens from there. It's an important conversation, though.
Absolutely.
Coming up, Broadway's back, and yes, so are the Tonys.
We will take you through all of this year's big winners and some who surprisingly didn't win after returning from a COVID intermission. That's next.
More than 2 years, the Tony Awards made their triumphant return last night, celebrating the theater as it comes back from its longest shutdown ever.
So who took top honors on Broadway's big night? Joining us now is Joy Marie Mackenzie Lewis. She's the deputy editor of entertainment at Insider. Good morning, Joy Marie. Theater fans waited a long time for this one, so take us through the highlights, and were there any big surprises?
Yes, as a beloved Broadway goer, I was actually really excited to see people crammed into a theater again, and I miss it, but it was great to see it last night. One of the biggest winners last night was Moulin Rouge. A lot of their actors took home the prizes, the top prizes. Danny Bernstein, who battled COVID himself, took home Best Featured Actor. And during his acceptance speech, he thanked the actors and the community for really rallying around him, not only because of COVID, but because of the death of his wife from ALS. So that was really touching to see. Also, Aaron Tveit won Best Actor for Moulin Rouge. And it was really interesting because he was actually the only actor nominated in the category because of COVID. Unlike other industries like, the Emmys or the Oscars, the Tonys really had to figure it out. They couldn't just make up productions. And so thankfully, Aaron won. He still had to take home 60% of the vote to win Best Actor, but he did.
Yeah, I talked to him a few weeks ago. He was still a little nervous and wasn't sure if he was going to get it. Just, you never know. I mean, this was, for that reason and so many others, an unusual Tonys. First of all, not as many shows were eligible because the pandemic cut things short. We're also celebrating shows that opened 18 months ago, maybe even 2 years ago. Walk us through the format of the show, what was different about it, and do you think they pulled it off?
I actually do, and so do the critics. So this year, the Tonys shook things up a little bit and instead did 2 hours of dedicated awards where they handed out awards. And that was hosted by Audra McDonald, who is a mainstay on Broadway. We love her. And then for the second half of the night, as you can see, Leslie Odom hosted sort of a Broadway's Back special. And it was chock full of performances and really exciting reunions. We saw Idina Menzel and Kristen Chenoweth reunite on stage. We saw an amazing performance by Adrienne Warren, who also took home a Tony Award last night for her performance as Tina Turner. So it was smart, and I hope other award shows follow suit.
Diversity in the theater industry has been a hot topic during the pandemic, leading to something called the New Deal for Broadway. What can you tell us about this effort, and do you think it was reflected in the Tonys?
Yes. So like many other industries, the Tony Awards are trying to figure out diversity and equity and inclusion. But I do think last night fell short. One of the biggest criticisms coming out of last night was that A Slave Play, which had a record number of Tony nominations, didn't take home a single award. And so again, I keep hearing this from critics and from social media that the Tony Award seems to be paying lip service to equity and inclusion. But when it comes to winning the awards, which is what matters, right? It's still not happening. But we still did see creators of color take home awards. Legendary Broadway director Kenny Leon took home an award last night, and he recognized Breonna Taylor and George Floyd on stage. So we've got progress, but there's a lot more to go.
All right, so what's number one on your list to see right now that you haven't seen yet, Joy Marie?
Oh, I've seen them all, but I will say I do want to see Adrienne Warren again as Tina Turner. That musical is one that I want to take my parents to. I love good music.
Count me in on that.
No kidding. Tina herself went to the opening, 2 years ago now. It's been so long, but she was even able to see it in kind of her last little tour of America here.
Talk about the pressure of performing in front of Tina Turner.
Yeah, no kidding. I can't imagine. Clearly it worked out for her. All right. Joy Marie Mackenzie, as always, thank you so much. Good to have you on. And that does it for this hour of Morning News Now.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.